Welcome inside the Blackwood Broadcasting Studios at an undisclosed Institute of Higher Learning. This is the Jake Feinberg Show, and we're happy you could all be part of the program today. Free your mind and your ass will follow. So says the parliamentary head of funk, while my guest is creating funk for your ass. The southern fried home cookin'. That homemade bread and biscuits and gravy and cobbler with a side of Harvey Mason, or Jimmy Madison, or Clyde Stubblefield, going across 110th Street and catching a big payback of marching bands and the Gulf Coast sound coming from the Crimson Tide and the southern home-fried gumbo marinating inside my guest's jukebox memories. Jukebox memories of listening to Horace Silver and Curtis Fuller, getting on stage with the godfather of soul at night and listening to Tyree, Glenn, and Count Basie. A self-proclaimed jazz snob, my guest was going to be a milkman until he found out that damn right he wanted to be somebody. Rockin' funky Watergate with a date on Soul Train and knowing that George Bohanon had locked down all the studio work in Southern California. My guest is one of the most gifted trombone players of his generation, similar to Wayne Henderson. He took that southern grit and boogie-woogie and combined them with his jazz sensibilities that he learned growing up watching big band after big band in his father's living room. Seeing how these cats handled themselves and gaining a trust in his own individual sound, passing the plate with Maceo Parker, Pee Wee Ellis, and Van Morrison. He's kept his lips in good shape and now carries the torch with the new JBs, fostering the legacy of the hottest backup band and promoting the magic gumbo that, when stirred correctly, can elicit the sounds of the church, the wards, the nightclubs, and the love. Hit it, Fred Wesley. Welcome to the Jake Feinberg Show.
Thank you, Jake. All right. I see you read the book.
I have not read the book, man. No, I just
know. You got all the good stuff out of it, you know.
Well, after 3 years of doing this stuff, I feel like I know the brotherhood pretty well. But in your case is essentially is quite amazing because because you openly admit you had this incredible desire to be a jazz player, and then you wound up just sort of. James Brown had an opening in his band, and you were like, well, I'm not really a funk guy, but I'm going to do it.
Right.
But I really want to start with you, Fred. Back, when I interviewed all the Crusaders, and they grew up in the wards with Hubert Laws, Wayne Henderson, Joe Sample.
Houston, Texas, yeah.
That's right. And they grew up in these wards where the white owners of the towns would not let the Chicago blues music into the town. They wouldn't put it on the radio or anything like that. And it's so funny. I read things. They say, "Oh, Fred Wesley's from South Carolina." No, he was born in North Carolina. No, he lived in Alabama. But I would like you to tell the audience about where you grew up, if you grew up in the wards, and what the neighborhood was like, and how it facilitated the kind of music that you grew to love.
Well, I grew up in Alabama, Mobile, Alabama, and for the first few years of my life, I lived with my grandmother, who lived next door to the Blue Diamond Cafe. So the first thing I ever heard was blues. They played blues in there up until the wee hours of the morning. And, I heard, "Oh, my baby," and "BB King to my Sweet 16," and the blues. And on Sundays, I went to church, and we heard gospel music. We had a real good gospel choir. In fact, my grandmother played for a choir. My father played for a choir. So blues and gospel are my roots. That's where I really came from. So I was playing piano. My grandmother was teaching me piano, and but she wasn't teaching me blues and gospel. She was teaching me the basics of the piano, scales and etudes and stuff like this. I knew little pieces like Claire de Lune and the Minute Waltz and stuff like that. But when I got a little older, I moved in with my father and my mother. We bought a house. They bought a house in Marion Anderson Circle, the Marion Anderson subdivision. And I started listening to jazz with my friend Thaddeus Williams and Costello White. we started listening to jazz albums. That's when the albums were big, 33 and the Third album.
Mm-hmm.
And I discovered J.J. Johnson and Curtis Fuller, Carl Fontana, and big bands like Count Basie. Well, I was also taking trumpet lessons with E.B. Coleman, my first bandmaster, and so the trombone came about when my father came home with a trombone one day and said, "You learn how to play this, I'll give you a job in my band," because he needed a third trombone player. He didn't have but two trombone players, and the other trombone player had gone off to play jazz with a real jazz group, Ed Pratt Jazz Group, and so he needed a trombone player. So I learned how to play trombone all the summer. I practiced some trombone, and when time came, he gave me a job in his band. I was 12 years old, and I loved it. I loved the camaraderie with the guys, and to this day, all my best friends are my father's friends. And they embraced me, and I learned how to play jazz, and I was practicing, studying jazz. So when James Brown came along, well, Ike and Tina Turner came along first. I took this to with Ike and Tina Turner with the hopes of going to a big city and being discovered as a great jazz trombone player, But then James Brown came along, and the same thing. I was intent on going to New York, and being discovered as a great trombone player. So,
can I want to ask you a question because, ironically enough, I was home over Christmas and I was going through this email that I had gotten from the skipper Henry Franklin, and and your email was on there, and I said, "Wow!" I'm like, I really need to get to Fred. I need to talk to him. I've interviewed everybody else in the Brotherhood, and the thing about Henry is that his dad was a big band leader too, and he talked.
Really, I never talked to Henry extensively. We just met one time,
Mm-hmm.
and it's good to know that.
Well, I would like you guys to. I'd like to put you guys in touch because I'll tell you, you guys are both larger than life musicians and amazing human beings. That guy was a gateway for me to so many cats and such a beautiful character. But the thing is that it sounds like his upbringing was very similar to yours because there were guys coming in. His dad had a shed in the back and they were jamming they had big band all day. And Henry went through every instrument. And he finally settled on the bass. But what his dad taught him early on was tap dancing. Did you ever learn any type of tap dancing? Any dancing like that?
No, I never could tap dance. No.
You got to believe. But in
the South, all the musicians have similar upbringing. Pee Wee and Maceo and a lot of guys from down south. They grew up listening to gospel music and blues, and discovered jazz in their early life. So. Me and Maceo often talk about that. We have he was a big fan of Ray Charles. I was a big fan of Ray Charles too. But he was in Kingston, North Carolina. I was in Mobile, Alabama. But we both were gravitated to the music of Ray Charles.
How much it's so beautiful to hear you talk about the lineage and how you're still so tight with all those guys that your dad played with. How much of that kind of camaraderie and that brotherhood, the trust, helped you in your career with early on, just knowing that the music was bigger than you and knowing that it was about love, especially with Ike and James Brown, guys that had they were pretty tender. They had tough personalities and they liked things their way. But you guys really, I listened to that Breaking Bread album. Oh, I just love hearing you talk. Because you're talking about humanity, and I got to believe that came from your father's those friends, and you're still friends with those guys today. And I think a lot of people need to hear about that because that's about longevity. Everybody's got long friends, but it's important to have those kind of friends. But in your case, I think it helped you propel you in music. But you tell me.
Well, music is a great love builder. It's a lot of people that you really can't stand. I can't stand this guy, but he could play. He could play good, and when you play together, you automatically love each other, because you take from what he does musically, and that's in his personality. So you automatically love people who can play real good. Most of my father's friends and most of my friends are dead now. But still, the ones that are still alive, we are still good friends, and because they taught me so much and about life. I learned so much about it. My second book is going to be about how I grew up and how they influenced things that I feel about life today.
Mm-hmm.
So they really taught me, and I don't really. I have some friends that are my age, but they are friends of friends that were friends of my father. Because they're all musicians. I mean, I have some other friends too, but they're not good friends. I'm talking about real close friends, that were friends of my father.
We're talking to Fred Wesley here, gifted trombone player, and to me it was when you go back, when you still live in Alabama, is that correct?
No, I live in South Carolina.
You live in South Carolina now. That's a
long story too.
We'll get into it. No, I just how you think I think a book like that, you're talking about life values that you learned. How important is it for the youth in those communities today? Like when you look at your communities back when you were growing up, nobody was, clearly there was poverty and there was dysfunction. But there were things like there were venues within the black communities to go see some of these amazing people like Smokey Robinson come through. There were the churches, and the families themselves seemed to be more tight-knit. And I don't want to get into a whole sociological thing with you, but what does your hometown community look like today? How is it different? And how do you think the youth is do you think they have the same kind of love coming out of there, or is it different now?
It's different now, but because when I grew up, it was all about, I was different. I was different in that I was all about music. I knew that we didn't have our civil rights, and I knew that I had to go to school. And but my main focus was music. My father left my mother when I was 12 years old, but that didn't bother me too much, because I still was in my father's band, and I still loved my mother, So we were separate, but we were together,
Mm-hmm.
So I grew up differently, It was mostly about music, and as long as I could play in my father's band, and I don't know how he and my mother got along. They didn't get along at all, but we got along separately, because me and my father had music, and me and my mother had the love that we had between son and mother, So I didn't. That didn't even bother me, and the civil rights thing. My mother was deeply into that, and that's why I was going to be a milkman, because she pushed me into that, but as you know, music won out over that, but I still, today, I vote, not because I believe in so much what people are talking about politically. I vote because I know my mother would kill me if she knew I didn't vote.
Right. Right. No, because, I love it. No, I love how this idea of, I was like, why was he so self-righteous about wanting to be a milkman? Now it makes sense because your mom really pushed you to that. She wanted to. Yeah. Unbelievable.
And I wanted to please her, but it was a tough decision too, because I wanted to be the first black man to have a milk route in Mobile, Alabama, and she wanted me to be. And but music, I didn't really want to play with James Brown, but it was music. It was about music. I didn't know I was going to become a band leader. I just knew I was going to be a guy in the band and leave Mobile and probably go to New York or Los Angeles or somewhere and become discovered as a great jazz musician. That's what I wanted.
Traditionally, guys like Tyree Glenn, Curtis Fuller, there were other, like Carl Fontana. Those, who were some of the trombone players? Like was Curtis before he was in the Messengers? Was he in those big bands like Basie band? Who were the trombone players in those big bands that you used to hear on the radio?
Well, the first trombone player that I admired was J.J. Johnson because he played so smooth and his notes were disconnected. Most trombone players had that that thing that you hear the slide reel, and I always wanted to sound like a saxophone or a trumpet. Because I just happened to play trombone. It just happened to be a trombone, but I didn't want it to sound like a trombone. So J.J. Johnson, first trombone player I heard. Then I heard Curtis Fuller. First time I heard Curtis Fuller was with John Coltrane on Blue Train.
Mm-hmm.
But then when I joined the Basie band, this is way later, I found out that I was sitting in the same chair that he was sitting in. With Curtis Fuller was sitting
wow.
there. So I was real proud to sit in Curtis Fuller's seat. And a lot of things happen like that. I played with Willie Bobo. Found out that I played with found out that Thurman Green had played in that same position. So anyway, J.J. Johnson was the first, but then I found out other trombone players. Carl Fontana was the first white trombone player that I realized could play. Because when I grew up, I didn't know any white people. And I didn't care either.
Right, exactly.
I didn't know the white people until I went into the army, And I had a fight with a white guy, and then we became the best of friends, because we found out that we had music in common.
Mm-hmm.
We both love jazz music, so things like that. It's a journey I have taken following music. Music has always led me.
Can you, let's go back to Willie Bobo. Again, there's an overlap here with the skipper, Henry Franklin. You talk about going to New York or believing that when you join James Brown, you're going to see the big city, you're going to get out, you're going to be all over. The skipper had 3 kids at 18, and he had to, Willie Bobo called him and said, listen, I got a ticket for you at the counter. I want you to be in my band. Come to New York. When did you first play with Willie?
Oh, this was back in the 80s, and we had a bad experience. We had some great gigs. I loved the guys in his band, and Willie made me think he loved me too. I loved him. We had a great gig out in the valley somewhere, but his road manager came to me and gave me some scale money, which is ridiculous in Orange County. I was supposed to be making $100 a night. We played 4 nights. He gave me like $80-some. I was like, what is this? He said, this is a scale for Orange County, And so I said, why? He said, Willie said he was dissatisfied with your playing, and he sent a note to the union saying he was. And I said, why? And I asked Willie, why? He never would talk to me, And I the next time I saw him was at the union when they were having a benefit for him after he had contracted cancer, and he was really dying, So I didn't say nothing to him about it. But to this day, I wonder why he was dissatisfied with my performance, because I thought I did great.
I'm sure you did. No,
and all the guys in the band thought I did great too. I don't know, it was something personal, I don't know.
Well, I think
I know what it was.
I think
when we had to rehearse, I told him I had a session and I couldn't come to rehearsal, and I told him, well, Thurman gave me the music. I know all the music, and so I'm gonna make this session. I'm not coming to rehearsal, so that's probably what it was.
Yeah, he got burned up. He wanted you only. He didn't want you going off on some other session. I couldn't understand that. I think he, listen, I never met the guy. I know he was charismatic and he was a heck of a player, and he was so the clave beat and the Afro-Cuban stuff was just. He just was the right player at the right time, but didn't mean that he was totally secure with himself either. For the record, everybody wants to talk to you about James Brown, but actually, I from my own education, you really, like you said before, you got your start with Ike and Tina Turner, or you at least played with them, and I think that's it. They were really young at that point. That was right.
They were really young.
And
Tina Turner right now is only about 4 years older than me, so that's saying something,
They
were really fresh.
How did you wind up getting hip to? How did that happen? Did someone get you connected to them? How did that work out?
The club owner, I was looking for a baritone saxophone player. His baritone saxophone player had gotten sick and was going home, and so he was in Mobile and he needed a baritone saxophone player. So Tom Couch, who owned the club in Mobile, told him, say, well, Fred Wesley over there, he can play the trombone, maybe you could. So Ike hired me in place of the baritone saxophone player, and he liked me and liked the way I played, and so we hooked up. We hooked up good. I stayed with him for about a year and a half.
They are not. Can you talk a little bit about how they, in the good times, or at least on, when it was out front, what made them such a dynamic duo, especially early? I mean, were you looking at them at that point and said, boy, they got longevity, or was it sort of you were just sort of wide-eyed and just trying to keep your head on straight?
I certainly looked at Tina. She was something. She was something from the get-go. She was dynamic, and Ike was in the background. He played the guitar, but he led the band. He was a great band leader. Tina had hardly anything to say to the band. She didn't say anything to the band. Ike Turner did all the talking to the band. So that let me know that you must have a good band leader in order to do your performance correctly. To do your performance dynamically as you wanted to shine, you had to have the band to push you. So I made sure that was happening. So when it was Ike and Tina Turner, I'm sure that's what it was. Ike had the band, and Tina Turner did the performing.
Mm-hmm.
But, I mean, I was a good performer. I mean, he used to do flips in the air and stuff. But his job was making sure the band was right, and he did that real good.
How did you? I like asking people like this, like you, who were in a position of sort of, you walked into these positions of leadership almost unknowingly. How would you tell somebody that they needed to pick it up, and how would you get them to toughen up as well? Have a thicker skin. Don't take it so personally, and just know that I'm trying to push you because I know you have it inside you. So don't take the criticism so bad. How did you work that?
Well, with James Brown Band, it was really a tough decision, a tough job, because I would tell James one thing, and to make him, he wanted to fire people, and I would tell him one thing and tell the band another thing to keep them from quitting, because it was like I was the mediator between the band and James, because when the band kind of lightened up, then I would tell him that James gonna do this and do that, and when James got ready to fire somebody, I would tell him that the band gonna do this and do that. And the band actually took pride in trying to please James or please me. I don't know who they were trying to please, but that's why they played so hard, and that's why they kept the rhythm, they kept the beat. All of them had good timing. That's the thing you had to have with James Brown Band. You had to have good timing. If you notice, the tempo never varied from where it started, because James would always keep the band pumping, and I would always make sure they were happy with keeping the band pumping, just like that, So it was a psychology sort of thing. I had James thinking one thing and the band thinking another, and consequently they loved each other and they all loved me. That was the way I made sure it would happen.
I wanted to, it's well put. You talk about, James Brown is great and you have no problem with him. He was a perfectionist in some ways, and like you said, you were kind of juggling 9 balls at one time to keep people happy. But right. The time period of music that I hone in on quite a bit is that time period of the JBs, and I'm trying to to me, through it all, James did put the band. I don't know, how did it come about? Because you made several prolific albums, 72, 73, 74, on his label, on People. And those were the JBs. Right. And to me, it's like, well, that's cool, because he was you guys were getting an identity that way. How did that come about? Did he just sort of say, Fred, you guys have been busting your tail, just, you deserve cut a couple albums, or you just had all this material? That to me, more importantly than hearing about his ego or how much energy he had or how he could just get going in 10 seconds. I'm more interested in how he was a conduit to the JBs, Breaking Bread, all those. I have them all on vinyl. So how did he give you? How did that come about? How did you get all those records?
Well, James had a contract with Polydor Records where he had to deliver a certain number of albums a year, be it on him or on somebody, So he would cut. He would record. We would record a lot of material. And some things he would put his voice on, and it would become his record. We compile all of those vocals with James Brown on an album and call it Hell or Reality or Mind Power, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And some would be more instrumental. So he would put those on a record with the JBs, because he just had to have a number of albums. He didn't have. It didn't matter who it was on. Some would be Lynn Collins, some would be Sweet Charles, and some would be Maceo, and some would be the JBs. But the JB stuff seemed to catch on. Now Breaking Bread, that was totally mine. But Damn Right Somebody was almost totally mine. And Doing It to Death was totally James Brown. And because certain things he would have to be on anyway, because Doing It to Death was a thing where he said hit it, and automatically it became his record, but he put it on the JBs, go on and have a funky good time. Didn't have a whole lot of lyrics to it, but it was a great groove. Jabbo played his groove, and Fred Thomas and Cheese, all that worked together real good. So it had to be a JB's record, but it also had to be a James Brown record. But it's known as the JB's record,
Exactly.
In fact, I never got paid for that. Anyway,
dude, that's what I'm saying is that the soul. Fred, this as well as anybody. Those LPs, Damn Right on Somebody, Hustle with Speed. Those albums are. They're big. They're huge. They're still huge today.
We have to do all those tunes now. We do Watergate, Breaking Bread, Pass the Peas, Give Me Some More, Doing It to Death. We do all of that on my show right now. We do all of those tunes, and people love those tunes, And and in fact, when we did Pass the Peas and Give Me Some More, I really didn't like those songs. I hope my friends in Alabama don't hear these two. In fact, the bass player. Noon, the bass player in Mobile say, man, why you want to do all that old funny sound and stuff? Well, don't you want to come out here and play some jazz? And actually, I really did, but the song was a hit. We talking about Pass the Peas. Pass the Peas was a hit song, and it is a hit today just as much as it was back in the day. And I never liked it, but it was a great record, and I had to force myself to like that record and Give Me Some More, all those things, But now, Breaking Bread, this is what I'm getting into it. Breaking Bread and Damn Right I'm Somebody, I'm beginning to fall into the groove, Now I love funk, and I love my position in funk, But at first I didn't like it. I did not like Pass the Peas and Give Me Some More. I didn't.
How did you? Yeah, no. This is where the rubber meets the road, because for me, there was this. How would you describe the best you can? You were on the road, you were in the studio. You didn't really have time to necessarily think, but you're a thinker, so it's like, how would you describe music in the early 1970s, like the JBs? You had this. I'm not going to talk about it because I'm just a journalist that wasn't even born then. But in that period of time, pre drum loop, pre drum track, pre really heavy electronic music. Even though James Brown laid down that ridiculous synth on Damn Right on Somebody, I guess he did that. But it's just like pre-electronic music with the confluence of Motown, all the regional music. Talk about music in the early 70s, the JBs, in the pocket, because that stuff, after a while, man, that's like just, it's like Afrobeat, and you could just be swinging back and forth and grooving to it. That's just to my ear. That's why it's so appealing. But you tell me, what was going on in music that made it so palpable and so good at that time?
It was the musicians. Drummers like Jabbo, Clyde, John Morgan. They had a specific beat, you know, and James Brown knew how to use that beat. He heard it. And guitar players like Jimmy Nolan and Al Kellum, country, Fred Thomas, they had a thing. They had a style that was new, and it was dynamic. You put it together real good, and you get a great beat like Pass the Peas. Pass the Peas. The reason I didn't like it because it didn't have a lot of chord structure and a lot of melodic structure, but the groove was there. Nobody can play a groove like Jabbo can. Doing it to death was nothing. But gonna have a fun. It was nothing but that. That was the a heart-stopping groove. Jabbo and Fred Thomas and Cheese, they had a thing, and James Brown had a knack of knowing how to use that thing just to create music. And so he did it, and then everybody else copied it. That's why you got these drum machines that have sampled Jabbo's beat and Clyde's beat and John Morgan's beat. And that's why you have all these great records with James Brown, the JBs, Lynn Collins, and Bobby Bird. That's why you have all those beats. The musicians, they did it, but James Brown knew how to put that together, put those grooves together.
Well put. I want to put in a track of music right now, and we'll take a listen to it and come back and talk about it, okay?
All right. It's a tune I wrote called Peace Fugue. And,
how do you pronounce it? Is it fugue? Fugue?
Fugue. It's a fugue. It's like a Bach invention. You see, I was really studying music before I joined James Brown, you know. So I put together a fugue. It's a 7-bar fugue. And which now, to be perfectly honest, it's probably a beat that came from James Brown. And, I mean, you know, because I got all confused in my career. I had the James Brown beat and had my melodic theories in mind and my chord structure thing in mind, you know. But it was all confused because that was Larry Golden. That's why Larry Golden is such a great organ player now, and Rodney Jones.
Absolutely, man, dude. Goldings is playing the bass lines on that, and you know what? So what? The groove is the groove, but you know what I'm listening to is the sequencing of ideas coming out of you. Just beautiful.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, go ahead.
It was too. That's why I was drawn into it. See, I was really enthralled by the groove that James Brown created. You know, he created some masterful grooves, like on Get on the Good Foot and Soul Power, Sex Machine. You know, those grooves are strong. They didn't have much of a chord structure, just one chord, you know. But the groove was so where everybody in the street could understand it. You know, it wasn't cerebral at all. It was just a great groove, and you could dance to it. You could dance all day long, all night long. The big payback, the groove, you know. But I was confused. Also, everything was all kind of mishmashed in my mind, you know. So I wrote tunes like For the Elders and Peace Fugue.
I love this. I mean, I found this 1990. It was a tour that I guess entitled Maceo, kind of a Roots Revisited, I believe, tour.
Roots Revisited, yeah.
And Rodney Jones.
That was,
Rodney was, I think Rodney played with Dizzy, if I'm not mistaken. I think I remember.
Oh, Rodney can play with anybody, but yeah, he was a long time with Dizzy Gillespie, with Lena Horne. He's one of the top studio guys in New York now, and still I call Rodney whenever I want some guitar work. Rodney brings his guitars, and he can do anything. He's the greatest guitar player in the world right now, you know.
I mean, just looking at the at the sort of the last couple of decades of Fred Wesley. I mean, you've had collaborations with Mike Clark, and Rodney Jones, and some of the older, you know, the Pee Wee Ellis, and you Maceo. I wanted you to specifically talk about two cats. I just love them so much, just the way I love Fred Wesley. is Maceo and Pee Wee Ellis. How were they part of the JBs? How did you guys first link up, and how would you describe your musical relationship, your friendship today?
I'm going to tell you. I'll tell you. We had such a strong bond between us, and it came from James Brown. I got to admit, it came from James Brown. Me and Pee Wee and Maceo, we could do a show right now and never rehearse. We could just call out tunes and do them right now. But Pee Wee is more jazz. I'm kind of a cross between jazz and funk, and Maceo is pure funk. So if we're gonna do a show that we all be satisfied with, it would be a 5-hour show, because everybody would do their own music, But we had to separate because Maceo had his thing, I had my thing, and Pee Wee had his thing. Everybody wanted to do everything their way, And in fact, we had one of the biggest arguments I ever had in my apartment. We was in L.A. We had a serious argument for about 4 hours. We were screaming and hollering, and they wouldn't put us out of the apartment, But we finally came together, and we did it for a while. But the compromise made for a good show, but it wasn't a perfect show. So Maceo took the band that we had, and he went off and he did his thing. He got the best of it. And I got my band, the New JB. It's the second best, and Pee Wee's it's probably the third best. They're all good shows, but it's not a show together. We would love to get back together, but we are so far into our own thing to let enough happen. Now we still are good friends, I guess. I just talked to Tyree yesterday. I talked to Mason the day before yesterday. We all talk and we laugh about things, But and we support each other. Anything we can do together. We went together to Brazil one time. We didn't do much. Me and Tyree didn't do much, but we appeared together. Maceo's show. And but that's why we're not together, but we are together in our hearts and our minds. We love each other, and but we cannot play together because there'll be a 10-hour show.
No, but I mean that you said so much interesting stuff. But when did they come into the? Were you a band leader for them, like with the JBs, when you were all together? And how?
Oh no.
Yeah, tell me.
Pee Wee was the band leader.
Okay, so
when I came into the band, Pee Wee was the band leader, Maceo was the star. He was the soloist, So, but then Pee Wee had to leave because he had a little tiff with James Brown. He left. He was really glad to leave. He went with Esther Phillips and Van Morrison or somebody, And Maceo, then I left. No, I left after that. I left, and then Maceo left. Took the whole band with him.
Wow.
Started a band called All the King's Men, and they stayed together for about 2 years. But during the 2 years they were gone, I came back. James kind of fooled me back, told me that Maceo was coming back, Pee Wee was coming back, Wayman was coming back, and all this stuff. But I came back and found nobody there but Jabo and Sinclair, So, but anyway, I was doing bad in California because George Bohanon had all the gigs,
I was going to ask you about that. No, but did you? This is so important because I'm a fanatical record collector. I know George did a lot of the studio work, but did you make it onto some jazz albums? I would love to know some Fred Wesley and Company albums on Bone.
No,
none.
Not during that time. That was in 1970.
Right.
And, I played with a band called Sam and the Good Timers, and I did very little recording. I think I recorded one time with the Gerald Wilson band, I think. Anyways, the Thurman Green that turned me on to that. I didn't do any recording, so when James came back to get me out of California, told me those lies about Maceo and Pee Wee coming back, and I went back and I found Jabo and Sinclair and Boosie. That's when Boosie was in the band.
Right.
And so Boosie was finna to leave, so when Boosie left, that left me, Jabo, and Sinclair, so I became the band leader then. And I had to put a band together. James had hired some guys out of Brooklyn and from from Augusta or South Carolina. Just a ragtag bunch of musicians that nobody ever heard of. They couldn't play or nothing. You know, they had no style or no thing. And I put them together. And James came and started grunting and patting his foot and dancing around in front of him, and they tightened up and became a good band, you know. And so that's the JBs as we know them today.
You know, it's just awesome to talk to Fred Wesley. I remember talking to the pianist Ben Sidran, and he said that he was up in Wisconsin, and just by happenstance, he was ready to record an album. And Clyde Stubblefield was on tour with James, and he got pissed off with James and quit the band. And then he wound up cutting an album with, he was already friends with Phil Upchurch, so Phil and Clyde were the rhythm section for Ben's album. But when he said Clyde quit the band, I was like, you know, this was not all wine and roses. I mean, this was, like you said, it was a bunch of guys who were, you know, kind of searching for their own identities. And, you know, Pee Wee did and then got out. Maceo did and left. Yeah. Bootsy, same thing. Yeah. And then you come back, kind of got hoodwinked back in. But it really was. It was James wanted those hungry cats because he knew he'd get.
When I came back, I was real hungry. I was very hungry, you know. And I came back with the idea that I was going to do whatever James told me. You know, we when I left, it was on a bad scene. James, I was putting the tune together. James came in. I said, "Well, you don't know what you're talking about. You know, I'm the musician here. You know." So James fired me. You know, that was the wrong thing to say. But when I came back, I didn't talk back to him. I did everything he said. Yes, sir, Mr. Brown. You were right, Mr. Brown. And you know, both things he said were correct. You know. You know, he when we did the movie score, he wanted to use some of his old music to score the film, and that was when Isaac Hayes had just won a Grammy at a Academy Award for doing new music, you know. And so the producer wanted the movie. The producer he wanted new music, and James wanted to use this old music. So I had to do the new music to get James to keep the job, you know. And James fired me because of that, then. But come to find out, he was right, because that's what they're doing now. They're using old music to score the film. But so a lot of things he said was correct, but the world wasn't ready for it, you know. But I did whatever he said. Whatever he said was right. Or either I made him think I was doing what he said was correct. So we got along. As long as I could. I took it as long as I could, and then I left when I had to, you know.
Can you talk a little bit about what you're doing these days, the kind of tours you're doing? I mean, we'd love to see you down here in Arizona, but where do you when you come across, you know, the audiences? What do they look like? Are they younger? Are they your generation? Are they searching? Talk a little bit about the live shows specifically that, you know, when you take the new JBs on the road or whoever you're playing with. What does it look like today?
Well, mostly we tour in Europe. We got a big tour coming up in March in Europe. I do a gig. We do Ronnie Scott's in London with Pee Wee at the end of February. But then my band comes to the new JBs, which is a whole new band. Bruce Cox plays drums. Dwayne Dolphin, Peter Madison, Ernie Fields, Jerry Winters, and Reggie Ward. It's a new band, but they are all very well schooled in the JB sound, and we play a little jazz, which is from my book, and we do some things that they wrote. You know, we do a whole plethora of music, but it's mainly about the JB song. We do the middle of the show. The whole middle of the show is a JB's medley. You know, we do Breaking Bread, Pass the Peas, Give Me Some More, Watergate, whole lot of stuff that you'll be familiar with. But we also do In Love in L.A., For the Elders, and some tunes of mine, you know. And we do some tunes, Peace Power, that they wrote. So we do about an hour and a half to 2 hour show. And the audiences, they seem to love it. They vary, and we got some real old people that come see people my age, and some people that are very young. We're surprised to see them, you know, that are into the music. People your age who got into the music and loved the music, So we have about 300 to 500 people per show. We play clubs and we play festivals where we have a wide array of people, because the festival draw a lot of people, And we tour about maybe 3 months out of the year, maybe 4 months, and I play with some other bands. I play with a band called Generations, which is an organ player and a drummer and myself. We do a tribute to Jimmy Smith, and I play with a klezmer band. We do klezmer, funk, and hip hop together. Me, David Krakauer, and So-Called, a rapper from Canada, and David Krakauer is a clarinetist. We do that, and so and that's a pretty good project too, and things like that. I do some guest appearances with Mike Clark and Leo Nocentelli, but mostly I like to travel with my own band, the Do JBs, and
do you mix in? I was going to ask you. Do you mix in? Being that you were a jazzer and still are, do you play a lot of original tunes that you come up with? Not just like you do the middle break. Obviously, you have the JB's medley, but do you throw in some jazz too?
Oh yeah, well actually, like I said, I'm confused now. What I do is not really jazz, it's not really funk. It's kind of in between.
I love
you
it.
can hear some of my music. You can hear them on the New Friends album, Come See Come Side album, the Full Circle album. You should get the Full Circle album. That'll show you exactly what I do. But the tunes are not really jazz. The only real jazz tune we do now is maybe Del Salsa, the Cannonball tune we do. But that's very seldom we do that one, But the music is in between. It's in between funk and jazz.
Did you ever get a chance to, when you were out on the West Coast, I know you were in Southern California, but did you ever cross paths with Gerald Wilson, obviously, but any of the other major mentor heroes out there, guys like Harold Land or Bobby Hutcherson? I'm just wondering so you didn't play on a lot of dates per se. I'm going to look for that Gerald Wilson album if you give me the title. But did you rub elbows with those cats? Did you get to play with them? So many. Yeah, go ahead.
I know. I knew Harold Land and trying to play with Jimmy Smith. I can't think of his name. Oh, anyway, Ernie Watts. I use them on sessions. I used to do sessions in L.A. I used to do horn and string arrangements for just about all the new groups that came out there. The SOS band came out there. Platypus came out there. I lived out there for 20 years, and for a long time, I was the go-to horn and string arranger, and so I knew a lot of the cats, like I can't think of nobody's name right now.
What years that's interesting. So you really were, what years?
All the 80s.
In the 80s, okay. And
all of the 80s, yeah.
And you really saw the industry changing dramatically at that time too.
Oh my goodness, yeah.
Oh boy. I mean, looking just as we wrap up here with Fred Wesley, and it's just we could spend 9 hours. I just wonder in this new book, the kind of legacy. Your first book, Tales of a Sideman, which is just spot on. But what about the life legacies? The idea of you and Maceo and Pee Wee screaming at each other, but still tying it all together 4 hours later. What kind of life legacy stuff do you want to leave for younger generations? Not just stuff that's coming out of your horn, but the stuff that's going to make you the person to become that musician.
It's a thing. I saw music change from going to studio every day, and doing 3 and 4 sessions a day until when Prince put his first album out. We did the Prince contract. Me and Ernie Fields. Ernie Fields was a good friend of mine. He's still contracting out there now. He's doing TV, American Idol, and The Voice and stuff like that now. But when we did the Prince album, we had one musician listed playing all the instruments, you know, and we thought it was funny. We just laughed, this guy did all the instruments. But that marked the beginning of the garage band and the synthesizers and all that stuff. Because everybody started doing their own recording, their own music in their garages and in their bedrooms and stuff. And we went from doing studios all day, every day to nothing. So you have to, in order to make money in music these days, we had to change our minds from studio work, session work, to learning computers and learning how to use Pro Tools and Finale and all this stuff. You know, we had to learn that, and so that's what I advise people to do today. And I mean, naturally, you want to learn your instrument. You want to be good on your instrument, and but you should also learn all these little side things too, these little computer programs, and how to use these computer programs in the studio to do your own music, because it's coming to that. Well, it has come to that. You know, it's past that now. You know, I don't even know what they're doing now, but what music is now is very, very different from what it was back in the 70s when I used to go in the studio with a whole bunch of musicians, to where you might go in the studio. Now I did a session with D'Angelo, and where he used real horn, but most these artists today, they don't use instruments. They don't use real instruments. They use synthesizers. That's where it is. That's where it is now. So you have to learn, along with learning your instrument, you have to learn how to use these computer programs.
And do you think, though, that there's a component where you can talk about, you know, interpersonal, how to get along, actually deal with people, instead of just staring at, you know, because you have to stare at computer screens. But you know, some of those intangibles. I mean, you guys went through the ringer sometimes. You'd be in the studio and duking it out. And you know, I've talked to enough. It doesn't matter. Chuck Rainey, Bernard Purdy. I mean, some of the guys they played with were strung out. I mean, it could have been really ugly. But in some ways, you just learned how to deal with people. And much more today about being sort of insular, isolationist, and it's not good for. I mean, it's just harder to create that breaking bread mentality, and that to me is something that needs to come back for music, to real improvisational music to prosper. I'm not talking about a 4-minute track filled with vocals and zero instrumentation. I'm talking about real improvisational music.
Yeah, well, you know, I don't think it'll ever come back to where it was, but it's still the basic get along with musicians. That always applies. You have to be nice and be thoughtful of other guys' ideas and stuff. You know, however it comes. You know, I remember I had a little tiff with Questlove, because I told him that I couldn't stand my solo on Give Me Some More, and he said, "What?" He said, that made my life. You know, so you have to be considerate of other people's feelings. You know, what might be nothing to you might be everything to somebody else. You know, so you have to always make room for other people to voice their own opinions about things. You know, because that's important in getting along. You have to always respect other people.
An hour of knowledge, dropping knowledge, and blowing my head. Fred Wesley, it was really an honor to talk to you, man.
It was good to talk to you too, Jake. I wish I could have been more helpful to you, but you know, time. I guess we could talk forever. And
hey, no, we'll do it again. We'll do it again. This is just the first inning, man. So we'll be in touch. All right.
All right.
Thank you. This is the Jake Feinberg Show. We'll see you all in a little bit.